The median age in Nigeria at the moment is 17, 18. And I think it reflects where our continent is as well. So we must spend time to build up, people who are in their, teens, 12, 13, 17, 18, and people who are 22, 24, 26. The world is such a global village now, and people are doing big things at 21, at 24. People are raising millions of dollars. People are building amazing businesses. Rema came from nowhere. How old is Rema now? Does anybody know? 23, right. And some months ago or weeks ago, Selena Gomez, who's supposedly the most followed celebrity on social media, says to Rema, "You changed my life." I mean, he's a Nigerian guy, so it might be beyond the music. I'm not going to say more than that, but any which way, life has been changed. So we young Nigerians are doing amazing things around the world. And I think that if there is any opening remark that I want to say to all of you in the diaspora is that people are solving problems that are making their nations independent. People are solving problems. So Americans are solving problems that further make America independent and a decider of global politics and global direction and global economy. Nations are solving problems that are securing their influence in negotiating their place in their region and in the world. Nations and nations are made of people are solving problems that are shoring up their negotiating power in their region and in the world. And it's important for all of you to begin to think about your place in building the nations that you come from originally, because it's the only place where you're first. Everywhere else you go, you might carry their passport, but you're still second. And every day they are bringing up policies that are changing by the second. You can see what's going on in the UK, and the woman who's trying to turn things around for immigrants. You can see what's happened with the visas. Now Americans need visa into Europe. To go from London to Europe, you also need visa. So things are changing. The world is changing. The place where you're really and truly first, don't forget that place. Things might not be great at the moment, but you know why they're not great? Because there are not enough people to build it. He says the harvest is plenty, the workers are few. And I'm happy that you are out here having great education and exposure. But you know why China works? Because every time the Chinese finish here, they go home. They're here, they don't even want to speak the language. They stay in their own community, speak Chinese, they do their thing together. The day they finish, they drop their pens, and they just go home and build their countries. I haven't seen, but I've heard that the TikTok that they show in China is different from what they show around the world. They show problem solving, they show innovation, they show the future. But on this side, we consume frivolities and vanities. And there's nothing totally wrong with that. It's just for all of you to have an awakening in your own self that makes you rise above what the world is trying to feed to you and force you to consume, to shape you in a certain way that is docile, that makes you a marketing statistics as opposed to creator who is selling something and gaining from the platform. I like to say, if the internet is not making money for you, it's taking money from you. Because all the time you spend going through those platforms, you're either a marketing statistics or you're burning your data, then you have to go back to T-Mobile, AT&T to buy more data. So any which way you're losing. But one thing is for sure, is that a house that is built on a solid foundation would last longer than that that's built on a shaky foundation. And your foundations are the places you trace your DNA to and the homes you've come from. And it's important for you to know that Africa, Ghana, Senegal, Nigeria, all the countries needs its economists, its doctors, its scientists, its policymakers, needs all of you. And things are not perfect. I like to say that there's a level of second generation slavery that is a willing one. They brought your parents here to build their countries unwillingly. So it might not be all great in many countries on the continent. What I want you guys to remember is that even in this country where you are, there was a time they didn't have malls. You don't think about that, right? Because you met America when it was all nice. The first time you met America was probably through an American film, for those who were not born here. When we were younger, we watched two films. India films, American films. India told us about love and dancing and singing. America told us about size and boldness and beauty and street lights and all the cool stuff. So for every one of us who watched Indian films and American films, we sang and danced to the Indian films, but we desired to go to America. Storytelling on a packaging. First time I got into this country, I'm like, why is this stinking so much? Why is it so dirty? Why are there so many homeless people? They didn't tell me this in the movies. I thought it was like concrete jungle when dreams are made of. And so when you come to Lagos and you complain about traffic or stench, whatever it is, it's the same as New York. So it's Lagos, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. It's the same thing. So they took the parents by force. But they understand the tools of the time, and the tools of that time was force. The tools of this time now is comfort and convenience. And that's why the biggest successful businesses are the businesses that give you convenience. Transfer money on your phone through Leatherback. A company I sit on the board, which sort of supports my travel and my movement. So you all should open your phones and check out Leatherback. Go to your app, Android, iPhone, and check out Leatherback. It's a brilliant app that helps you send money back to Nigeria, to Ghana, to anywhere in the world. You convert through currencies easily, from dollar to yen to pounds to naira, without any hassle. But the point is, the businesses where you order for food, order for cars, order for groceries, convenience, all of those things, convenience. So many of you are here because of convenience. There's running water, there's electricity, there's a working train. Convenience. But you're in that trap of convenience. And that's the new way of attracting the best brains from the continent, that your continent is not built. Your countries are not built. So for the longest time, we continue to go away, and then the place where you're first continues to go down, and you never want to go home. And here, they will always put a ceiling. There are levels you cannot go past if you work in corporate America because of your color, because of where you're from. And so I like to say, you might not be able to up and go, but you might want to begin to think, what can I do to contribute to where I've come from? To begin to gradually build where I've come from. What can I support? What can I, contribute? And strategically, not just send money, not just take clothes. No. What am I going to do that can help move the needle? Do I want to build a school? Do I want to renovate a library? Do I want to do a scholarship that can help education so that you have young people who are living in the countries who are educated, can add value back? Am I a doctor? How often am I going to go home and do Doctors Without Borders? What is it? I always say that the diaspora is like water to Africa. And so when you come with water on the continent to water the soil so that seeds can grow. And even when you're not able to come, send a pipeline home so that by the time you come, the soil is already soft and the seeds you put in can easily grow and sprout and bring fruits. There was a time that this country didn't have cars. And the woman who rode on the carriage with the coal, they saw her and they said it was witchcraft. Because that was how they were thinking then. Your continent still talks about witchcraft, right? Because that's how they are thinking. America once saw things and said witchcraft. The same America that looks all gold, is all science and all data. There was a time where there were things they didn't understand and they said, oh, that's witchcraft. There's nothing special or wrong if you're somewhere and they say that's the level of education exposure at the time, but just give them time for evolution and development and knowledge sharing. And it is some that would come from you guys. And so if there's anything I want to just say to you as I open, the conversation today, is to remember your role for your countries in the continent where you're truly first. Thank you.
With that, and for today, our conversation is discussing leveraging your social capital and how to build generational wealth. So super excited. There's a lot of stuff that I'm hoping to learn too. So Mr. Williams, I'm excited to share some of these questions with you and to hear more of what you have for us. So we know a ton of your accolades, but would love to strip that back for a second and just to know how you would self-describe yourself, who your family are, your kids, and with all the glitz and the glam and the glory, how would you describe yourself? Help us to know you more intimately, since this is an intimate setting.
I was born by what I'll call a single mom. So shout out to everyone here who's been raised by a single mother. Anybody? Can I see your hands be raised by a single mother? Only 1, 2, 3. Only? Wow. Only 4 of us. You guys are lucky. Well, we are the luckiest. Okay, great. Shout out to him. I was born, by what I would call a single mom. Raised by my mom, mostly. Born with a silver spoon. I was born in London at the Great Portland Hospital, which at the time, and I think even till now, remains the most expensive hospital in London, or one of them, but at the time it was. And I'm going somewhere, so don't roll your eyes yet. But yeah, so born into a well-to-do family, and, with maids at the beck and call, cars and drivers and toys and what. But 5 and 8, my mom was ill, and everything was dead. And so the drivers were gone, the cars were gone, and we couldn't go to school. And one of the jokes we make about the time is my sisters used to be worried that how was I going to go from Kellogg's to Cornflakes. Do you know Cornflakes? So Kellogg's was the luxury, and Cornflakes was for the regular families. And my sister used to be worried that, how is Debola going to manage Cornflakes? What she didn't realize was that cassava flakes was in my future. For those who don't know cassava flakes is gari, and not just that gari was in my future, but that there would be days where I would eat bread with water and milk with sugar, and then days where I'll eat bread with water and only sugar. Where I would do 010. Who knows 010? You do, yeah. And days where we would do 101, and days where you do 001. Oh, she's a veteran. The round of applause for my colleague. But yeah, so we went from having so much. No, Dio, there are seats in front here. Let them come. Yeah. We went from having so much to having nothing, and not being able to afford education. And my comfort at the time were books. I would read books, Jeffrey Archer, Frederick Forsyth, Daniel Steele. I read Mills and Bones, I read about Greece and love and dying and Romeo and Juliet, and I read inappropriate books for my age because I was between, I think, 9 and 12 or 13 at the time. So these books were way above my age. But those books, took me beyond my problems. Those books made me realize there was a world out there, and that even though I was where I am now, I could be anywhere if I just did a few things right. So they were my escape. And when I turned 14, I woke up one night in my mother's bed, the bed I shared with my mom and my two sisters. They had their room, but they would usually come. So we had two rooms in a face you. Who knows what a face my face you is? Okay, I have more colleagues here. It was not a public face my face you. It was a family house. So it was my grandfather's house. So we're all family members, but it was a face my face you. And I woke up that day, and I felt something crawling on my hand. And I thought it was a mosquito. And I opened my eyes, and it was a cockroach. And I tried to shake it off, and it flew. Oh, I was traumatized. I'm still traumatized till today. I'd never seen a cockroach that flew until that day. But that day, I said to myself, my life can be better than this. That day, I said to myself, my life can be better than this. I was a 14-year-old boy. It was the same year I gave my life to Christ, and I got to understand a few things about owning your power and being a child of God, who God has given the grace to dominate the world, to create and decree and declare and make things happen. Think a certain way, as a man thinketh, so he is, and let the universe conspire, towards me. I learned about sowing and reaping and so much that year. And so that year I began to leave home. I began to try to find a path for myself. I tried to be an actor at the point in that year. And I think, to stop here, my life took a turn from that day. It's been almost 28 years since then, and it's been 20 years as an entrepreneur since then.
Awesome. Thank you for that, guys. Firstly, this was not on my list of questions, but I just feel like 001, 100, like, for the inquisitive minds in the room, could you please let us in on the inside? I need to know.
Oh my God. Adiola is bar. So 001 is no breakfast, no lunch, dinner. 010 is no breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And 100. So you pick one. You say, when would I have the most strength to weather the hunger? One. So if you're doing 001, it means that that by evening, you want to collapse. Oh yeah. So you simply say you're fasting. That's it. So you don't waste it. You just say, God, I'm fasting. So you pray so that God can take it as a fast. Then you break at 6 and you continue. Yeah, so that was it. So the point I was making when I was talking about being born into wealth with a silver spoon, and being born in the most expensive hospital, is how life happens. How things can turn overnight. But the point is that your location, does not necessarily determine your destination, where you're going. So where you are now, I had this cheesy thing I say. I say, location does not determine your destination, it's just a transportation. So these journeys that I went through and this phase of my life, where the different buses and trains I had to hop on, that led me to here. But when I was 9, I always wanted to stand before audiences and share my values, the way I saw the world. And I thought that I saw the world in a certain way that I wanted the world to know about. I wanted to change behaviors and perceptions about different issues. So when I was 9, I always wanted to stand in front of the room. And that's why I wanted to be an actor. So when I was 14, I tried to be an actor, because at the time in Nigeria, for you to change behaviors, you use films. So those films where they would show someone who would be a thief, then they would get him arrested, then he would repent. So films were medium to teach values. But what happened is I succeeded as an actor on stage. I did get some roles. I remember my first major production was in 2000. 23 years ago at the National Theatre for President Olusegun Obasanjo, which I won an award for my performance at that play. But what happened was, after that play, I kept getting stage roles. I couldn't get on television. I couldn't be in a film. And I would go from audition to audition, location to location as a teenage boy, and I would get no opportunity. What was most intriguing was when I got to those places, I would meet, all of these adults. I would be the youngest in the room. If there was ever any other teenager on set, they would be hand brought by someone. And I think about that, and I think, how stupid was I? Because I would go on this set, and I'd be reading roles that belong to adults. And I'd be thinking, they'll be thinking to themselves, who is this foolish boy? But that's how much confident I was. And I thought that if I was in the room, I belonged there. And that I could get opportunities for the people who were in that room. I never enter anywhere and feel like an imposter. And I'm just quickly putting together a message for you. For every room you enter, regardless of your color, your race, your gender, you're here because you belong there. So sit there comfortably. Don't lose your voice at the time. Don't shake. Share your ideas. Make your demands. They would only say no. So for everybody who turned me back, they only said no. It didn't hurt me. It didn't cut me. It didn't take anything away from me. I remember finally getting a break and doing a film where they were supposed to pay me 6,000 naira. Film I never saw, money I never saw. You must always know why you're here. And your purpose can be expressed through multiple vehicles. In my place, they will say, it means that I want to build wealth. So I opened a shop as a tailor, as a designer. But my goal is to build wealth. And I have a location where people come. There's already traffic of people coming to make clothes here. So I opened a small stool where I'm selling wares. So people that come to patronize me in my tailor shop can easily say, oh, how much is the 10 naira? And go. Because I already have the asset of a location. I just need to now multi-purpose it towards wealth creation. Or people that come in to buy the wear will say, oh, you're also a tailor. Okay, let me bring my cloth, or let me call my auntie. And so your purpose can go through several vehicles, several iterations to lead you where you want to go. And when I couldn't get on television as an actor, then I thought to myself, what I needed was the media. It's the media. So we have a camera in this room. We have about maybe 70 people in this room, and there's a camera here. And while these 70 to 80, whatever people in this room are listening to me, if we put that on the TV show, on the internet, we get another 1 million or 2 million people or 500,000 people to be here. So I realized that what I wanted was a platform to reach masses. It wasn't that I needed to be an actor per se. So I moved to television. And at the time, I come from a generation who believes in service. And as a person, I believe in sowing to reap. I believe in giving first, ever before you ask, or giving and let the universe bring you back good. That's my generation. The generation now is slightly different because you have certain tools that we didn't have in our time. And so you had to serve. You know that Igbo business mechanics, that amazing global program that should be studied in Harvard, where you bring someone to train, you empower them, and then you open, channels for them, and then they eventually become successful. And so when I couldn't get on as an actor, I began to find opportunities just in television. And I would go to the big shows. There was Fumi Yoda at the time. New Dawn Fumi Yoda was like our own opera. And there was a show called Insider with Agatha. And that was our own Ellen. And I would go to those shows as an audience. I just wanted to be in a place where there were cameras. And I remember we'll go to Insider with Agatha. You have to go with change of clothes because they record like 5 episodes. So we were popular as audience members. But that got me close enough to understand how TV works, to understand the power of the media. And then from there, I remember getting a gig in NTA. NTA is our own CNN, if you don't know. Those who live in Nigeria know NTA. Our own local, Fox or whatever it is. And at the time, I got the gig, but I wasn't paid. Again, remember I said to you, I come from a generation of service. And I, as a person, I believe in service. And so I wasn't paid for 6 months. I worked on the show without pay. But it wasn't for free. I was gaining experience I would never gain anywhere else. So think about it and think internship. I was building contacts I would never have built if I was in my bedroom waiting for someone to save me, because no one is coming to save anybody. When God comes to you, when favor comes to you, when God remembers you, he wants to meet you working. He wants to meet your hand on the plow, and then he will bless and multiply. You're not going to sit down. The universe is only going to bring to you loafers, you know. But this story ends with the first job I eventually got in television, the first real job at the time, was paying me double the amount my peers who were working in other platforms were earning. So all that time I spent with NTA, all that time I spent building relationships and experience, I eventually got a job with a TV show called, excuse me, Nigeria International, which was showing in the UK, in the US, in Europe, and in Nigeria. I was hired as a producer. I think maybe I was 18 or 19 at the time. This kid, literally, you know, and then my peers who were working in other TV platforms, Sound City, Hip TV, because we used to talk, I knew what they earned. I was earning double what they were earning. And I knew it was simply because I had invested where they didn't invest. So when they were hired and they were paid. And they did the minimum they could do in that space. But I stretched myself because I didn't have anything. So while in NTA, I had my eyes here, my hands there, my hands there. So my value had gone up, you know. I think I'll stop there for now. Yeah.
Thank you. We've heard a lot about your time as a producer, audience member, actor, and eventually would love for you to fill in that gap between where you are today and what the big moments were that led you there. But a lot of what you spoke about was finding opportunity within each level that you occupied. And being an audience member, I'm sure it was a lot of social capital that you were able to build, and I'm sure you did that across many other jobs as well. So would love for you to define for the audience what you feel social capital is, and then let us know the importance of it and how you've leveraged it throughout your career.
I think social capital is the ability to curate people in your sphere of influence or in the community. So you curate, and the word is curate. You know, you curate people in that community or in that sphere where you have access to. The Bible says, iron sharpen iron. It means that every one of us needs to find an iron to sharpen us. And so when you're building your social capital, you sort of build social capital with iron that are sharp. Because if you build social capital with iron that is blunt, you become blunt. So they say, if you're 5 of you, if you're hanging out with 4 smart people, you're the 5th one. If you're hanging out with 4 dumb people, you're the 5th one. You're never like, oh, I have these guys, but I'm better than them. It's not true. You're a summation of the people you hang out with. And so the deliberateness, the intentionality in building the network of people in your social compass. And all my life, I've always believed in people and the power of networks. And I've always believed you can spread your network so far, and you can make something out of nothing with people. So if you have just myself and Amin, you know, we can do something. But imagine if we brought on board Moshudat and Sheyi and Semi and Dayo, and then we can do something bigger. So I've always been intentional about bringing as many people as possible into my network to be able to drive impact. Remember that as a 9-year-old, I had a vision to change the world with certain values. Do you remember that? I said that to you earlier. And that has guided me all my life. So when I was 19, I founded something called the Future Awards, which is 18 this year. And the Future Awards was a platform that curated the brightest and the best young Africans. And it used them as strong, positive images to inspire other young people. At the time, 18 years ago, we didn't have the internet the way you have it now. you can open the internet and see go-cast and see different inspired. We didn't have it. Our job was to peddle hope and inspiration by curating the young people and then bringing the media attention to them to tell the stories. We did that from 2005 to 2010. And then in 2010, we had a situation in Nigeria where the president was sick, dead or alive, we didn't know. President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, for some of you that might know him. And the Senate had refused to confirm the then Vice President, Goodluck Jonathan, as acting president. So we had no leadership in Nigeria for about 6 months or thereabout. There was crisis in Jos was burning down. The electricity was the worst ever. Insecurity, it was bad. We at the time felt a responsibility that if we had led young people for 5 years, telling them step into your power, start a business, become this, become that, and government was about to frustrate all of that, we felt we had a responsibility to be active in a way to hold government accountable and say, guys, all we are asking is make the nation work. We are ready to do our own work on the business side. And at that time, we also had the likes of Professor Wole Soyinka and co. on the street. They were also doing some marches and trying to get government to do the right thing. So myself and my partner then, Chude, decided to do a march. There was a lot of conversation on Twitter. So Chude sent an email titled, "Where is the outrage?" How do we move the outrage from Twitter to real time? So many of you might have heard about NSAS, which happened in 2020. 10 years before NSAS, there was something called Enough is Enough. If some of you know it. And 20 years before Enough is Enough, there was something called Concerned Professionals. Every generation thinks that they are the smartest and that the inventors and the innovators. They do not know that you rest on the shoulders of those who've gone before you, and the things that they've done is what has made what you're doing easier. And that's why for me, I acknowledge what Concerned Professionals did 20 years before us. And then 10 years after, 20 years after, 10 years after we did, there was Enough is Enough, NSAS. And I'm hoping that in 5 years from NSAS, there's another revolution. So it took us 20 years. It took the next generation 10 years. Let's hope that in the next 5 years, that's 2025, there's something magical that comes. Do you get it? But I'm trying to answer your question on how I got here. And so we led that march, Enough is Enough. Remember the conversation that morning. I was going to the UK to celebrate my birthday, and my business partner at the time, Chude, called me and said, "You're going to the UK, but you know that if you go, this march will not happen. We have a group of people. Remember that it is you and I who came up with this, and we need to drive it. Because a group of people never, if you belong to any group, you will know that not everyone does the work. It's always one or two people. But it's great to be in the group." And so I canceled my trip that morning. You know, my mom called. When I told my mom I was going to Abuja, I said, "Oh, you go and kill yourself." She knelt down. She did the whole works. I said, "Mom, I'm going." A generation has to be ready to sacrifice. And I went. I remember being in Abuja, you know, and doing all the rounds and trying to get publicity, being picked up by the SSS because they're, "What are you guys doing?" You know. And then some groups were running an ad on radio against us that, "Oh, there are these guys trying to do a march. Don't join them. They've been paid." So it looked like a march that was doomed to fail. In actual fact, the schools were on strike. And at the time, we called the guys, the nuns, you know, to come and join us. And they said to us, "Each person that comes, 5,000, 1,000 or 5,000. If you give us 1 million, this is the amount of people that will come. If you give us 2 million, this is the amount of people that will come." And we have to ask ourselves, do we want to fight the battle the same way they fight, or do we want to do different? So we said to ourselves, even if we were 50, we would go. But one thing we made sure we did was we used the power of pop culture. So we ensured we had celebrities, Omotola, Omaomi, Stella Damaso, Timi Dakolo, and so on, the big guys at the time. Because one of those guys were like several young people. So we said, you know what? We will focus on the voice and the power of the voice as opposed to the numbers. We began that march that morning with about 50 people. We ended up about 3,000. We had invited CNN Al Jazeera and so on and so forth, only one channel showed up, maybe channels or so. But by 4 o'clock that day, everybody of CNN was calling, Femi Oke of they were all calling. We were all over the media because enough is enough was trending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on Twitter. And that showed young people the power of Twitter that day to get global attention. When we did that march, people called us activists. But you see, we said then that we're not activists. We are active citizens. And every one of you here don't have to take the tag of an activist and be afraid to speak up because you don't want to be seen as an activist. But you can be an active citizen, a citizen who is unhappy with the situation and adds their voice in the community to drive change. That's all. And so we did that for about a year, and then we, the leadership, handed over to somebody else, and then went on the board. From the president, when he was vying to be president, to come and work on his campaign. And because after that march, he had shown that he cared about young people, he joined Twitter after the march. He came to Lagos to have a youth launch. Before that, no president had ever left Abuja to come to Lagos to sit with young professionals. The only body that was seen as a body to negotiate and engage when it comes to young people were NANS. Remember the body that I told you asked me to pay and they will come? Yeah. So we created a new block of power amongst people like yourself. And that's why today you have a voice. Because in 2010, they experienced your power to call global attention, to hold the nation to ransom until they did the right thing. Nothing happens by chance. Generations are building to make your life easier. And in some cases, tougher, of course. So when we got the call, we had to think, do we want to do this? Or do we want to, how does it conflict with our work as active citizens? But we thought to ourselves, if we do this, and because this man has shown some interest in young people, he comes in and brings policies and introduces a path that truly elevates and accelerates the growth of young people, then we would have done the right thing. So from trying to build young entrepreneurs, empower young people, we moved to opening the eyes of young people to the power of active citizenship. And then suddenly we had the power to determine the cause of a nation at the highest level by doing political communication. So we took it on and we did it. And like I've learned in the last 12 years of working in political communication space, you can never be too sure how the candidate you work with will behave when they have power. You can never be sure. You can't. And so it didn't go very well like we thought. And in 2014, when we got the opportunity again, we worked with the president that just left the country and did all the rebranding. So if you saw him in a suit, the high five with the kids and all of those things, yes, I did it. And you can ask me if you want to. In actual fact, if you saw him in a gray agbada, the filler he wore is my father's filler. And we did that job passionately with all our heart. Because for us, we believed that this was a turning point for Nigeria. And if you paid attention to Nigeria at the time, you would know that many young people were committed to seeing that change happen. Because there was a sense of frugality around the candidate in question. 8 years down the line, we're here again. But we did a campaign. Because our eyes had always been on Africa, so we went to Ghana after the Buhari election. We worked with Nana Akufo-Addo. We ran his campaign as well, which was an excellent experience. He had won, President Buhari had won 3 times, and then we worked with him on his 4th attempt, and he won. President Nana Akufo-Addo had won twice, and then on his 3rd attempt, we also came on board. We went on to Senegal, worked with President Macky Sall for his return into office as president. Something interesting happened about a month ago. President Macky Sall came to Nigeria and we had a meeting. And as we walked out, we took some pictures and did some videos. And I posted the video on my social media. We did well, I just mentioned, our client, lovely to catch up, I'm coming to Senegal to see you. But 2 days after, a crisis broke out in Senegal. People were accusing him of running for third term and turning the constitution. And the post that was going well and people were saying nice things suddenly turned around. And people were cursing him and cursing me. Of course. And in like 5 days, I think the post went from maybe 2 views to 1 million. The comments just blew out of the roof. My team just deleted many of the negative comments because we do love a light here. We don't do, And then I just thought to myself, chai, African leaders will disgrace you. Because just 2 days ago, I was proud. I mean, he's done great things in Senegal. He's one of the leaders that, whenever you say, oh, I worked, say, yes, we worked, Because even as a communication company, you want to be able to be proud. These are my clients because our mission was that we will work with leaders who will develop their countries to accelerate the growth and success of young people. That is why we're here. That is what we want to do. But it's a gamble. You can never know. And sometimes the political system also presents you candidates that you have to choose the best of the worst. So you have to decide, do I want to do it or not do it? But if you don't do it, somebody else will do it. If you do it, at least you're close enough to advise. They might take it, they might not take it, but at least you have a leg in the room. You have a social capital to try to engage. Probably be how we got here. We began, our focus has always been, change the world with a value, empower and shore up young people in every way. You build platforms of convergence through the Future Awards, Robin Minds, the Future Conferences. We had several conferences. We built a TV show that came out of an event like this. Every quarter, we used to hold an event called Robin Minds. We bring young voices together. Because our goal has always been to use young voices to change the world because they have a loud voice. And from doing that show every quarter in the room, it became a TV show. It's the longest running youth talk show. It shows on Channels TV. It's presented by Ebuka. It's 12 this year on Channels TV. We own it as well. So we built that. So we built platforms, communication platforms. We built content platforms. We built convergence platforms to empower young people over the years across the continent. And then we've moved into awakening young people towards their power as active citizens, and then we've moved into political communication, which can be sexy, having access to presidents and all these things I do, sounds fancy, and people, revere you and so on. But at the heart of it, I just want to see leaders in Africa who will truly be committed to make people like you look back, people like you finish here, drop your pens, and come back home.
That was amazing and very insightful. There's something very interesting and important that I think you said, and it's that we stand on the shoulders of those who come before us. And when you spoke earlier, you spoke about the Africa being the youngest nation or continent in the world. So what are some systems that you have built or that should be implemented that can help assure us that we are, instead of going in a circle, moving forward to a sure journey or end?
There's no one way. First things that can lead to us building a better continent is for every one of us to step into our power first. I'm doing what I'm doing today because I stepped into my power without anything holding me back. I said to you when I was 9, I wanted to stand before audiences. Am I not standing before audiences today? I had my vision. I knew what I wanted to do, and I stepped into my power. And I think that is one of the best gifts that Nigeria also gives you, because you're not second-guessing yourself. You are in a place where you're first. Step into your power and be excellent. Imagine if every one of us in Africa were excellent in our jobs and our responsibilities. The plumber, the carpenter, the driver, the service provider, the person in the office that needs to move your file and doesn't ask you for a bribe, the immigration officer who doesn't say where is cola. Imagine if everyone just did their jobs first. You would have a seemingly more decent environment first. And then you now take it further. by now thinking about your neighbor and thinking about your environment and thinking about how do I impact in what is around me and those around me. You now take it a step further to now say, okay, how do I think about solving existential problems? Remember I said something in the beginning. I said people are solving problems that help their nations become independent. Nations are innovating their ways through problems to increase their negotiating power. Imagine if every one of us in this room are beginning to think, how do I solve the problem? This problem in Nigeria that does this. How do I solve this problem in Congo that does this? That's it. Our continent is riddled with problems. But these problems are opportunities for us to even leverage and create business opportunities and paths for ourselves. So you're making money, but at the same time, you're solving problems. And when you begin to think that way, even if you don't succeed, you would have begun the journey that another generation will pick up the baton and continue. And that is how generational curses are broken and generational successes are built. Because when I said to you earlier, send a pipeline home, soften the soil, it means that a kid can come and put seed in that soil and it will germinate. So you've done half. And then when you come back home, there is a tree that has a shed to cover and protect you. There's a tree with potential fruits where you can pluck from. So you have to also think long term. For all of us to truly be part of creating better countries on our continent, you have to think about your country. It's not wishful thinking. It's not just, just thinking it will happen. It will not happen if you don't be intentional. You have to be intentional. It's not going to happen by magic. It's not going to happen by magic. We've got to be intentional about it. So you need to think about Nigeria, think about Ghana, think about Egypt, Tunisia, anywhere you're from. And then understand the problems. You've got to go closer. Don't just join in this shallow abusing your country. Don't join in those shallow conversations. Don't join in the bandwagon, the mob mentality that Twitter and social media sucks your energy and time in. And you just curse people. You don't know why they do, what they are on about. Stop wasting your time. As they say in my place, on ejo gota doti, on frivolous conversations that add no value, on chaff. How many of you have studied the Nigerian budget? How many of you have asked the people that call you for money to say, who are you even voting for chairman in your area? How many of you have bought tickets to go to Nigeria to cast your vote and come back? How many of you have used your phone to tell positive tales about your countries? Those are the things. They are small but intentional. I do these things I do to add my own quota. It takes time and virtue. Sometimes I'm on my way to these things and I'm like, oh, Deborah, why did you agree to this? Tonight we had 2 programs. One with you guys this afternoon and one with Sade this evening. I had to beg my friend Deborah and say, listen, we've done Sade in Houston. Let's do Dial in New York. But that's me giving of my time to be a symbol, to peddle hope. The other day, my friend, what I used to sell, I sell hope. I'm a hope peddler. I just want people to believe there's more they can do, and I try to give practical steps towards getting there. And so, be more intentional. Your nations in focus and understand the problems. And then think through solutions based on your understanding. Don't just walk with the air or with imagination. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you. And so thank you guys. With the last question of the evening, I think, first of all, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to hear from you and to learn from your story. Something that was very inspirational was how something very traumatic in your early life, you were able to deconstruct that and ultimately leverage it to build the life that you have today. And you've rinsed and repeated that throughout your career as well. And what you do is you feed that back down to the community, which is all amazing. For myself, and I'm sure a ton of people here, we want to be able to like take some of those seeds and implement it in our own lives as well. So with your final and parting words, is there any form of strategy that you keep in mind as you're thinking of how to leverage your community and your social capital towards building back towards the continent or building a career for yourself? What are some key elements or key takeaways that you want to share with us before we go?
Find the problem. Be fixated on it. Let it trouble you in your sleep. Let it trouble you in your bathroom. Let it trouble you when you're doing gymnastics. Let it trouble you. Just focus on it. And you would get the inspiration to solve it. You will get everywhere you go the keys and the leads and the different, moving parts that you can bring together to solve it. So find a problem. And that's what I did. I'll give you a typical example. So we walk into Buckingham Palace, say myself and Jasmine. And Jasmine is just enamored and just thrilled by being in Buckingham Palace. She's just taken away by that beauty. And she wants to take pictures, and she wants to tell the world, I met the king, got the queen, yada, yada, yada. But I'm in that room and I'm thinking, how do I come back here? How do I become a permanent visitor in Buckingham Palace? My vision is different. So when I walk into the room, I'm seeing something else than what she's seeing. She's seeing in the moment. She's seeing, I'm just so grateful to be here. I'm thinking, how do I get a room in this place? How do I access opportunities in this place? Because my focus is different. So pick your focus. I'm thinking, how do I galvanize people towards a cause in this place? How do I get people who care about the things I care about? So I'm in that room and I'm trying to meet people who we share the same vision, who we care about the same thing, to create partnerships to make impact. What problems are you fixated on? What are you trying to solve? And that is why you must make the continent a centerpiece in your thinking. Until you do that, you might not be able to contribute to that continent. Thank you.
That's amazing. Can we get a round of applause for him this evening? And thank you to In My Neighborhood for putting this together. This has been amazing. Everyone, I hope as we wrap, everyone can come and speak to each other and learn about who else is in the room. Oh yeah, but I think there is a Q&A portion.
Hi, my question to you is, you were talking about how we need to start going back home and all these things, right? Which is dope. I consider myself an entrepreneur and somebody who does stuff for the culture. And so what programs do you have for people like me that have businesses that push the culture in the States and abroad? What kind of platforms are there for people like us to go back home to? I don't want to say it's like a question. I feel like it's a little different because sometimes you're an entrepreneur. Let me use myself as an example. I have a shea butter brand, right? Shea butter is made. Thank you. So shea butter, that's made in Ghana. That's in Ghana. That's in Nigeria. That's in some places in Senegal. What people could we get to connect with to be a part of the change? Because obviously I could be able to manufacture straight from home or different things like that. So I'm just using myself as an example, but would love to know if you have any programs, any mentorships or any things of that nature so that we could be more than just an idea, but an actual shift in the culture. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great. The first was when to fight and when to adapt. Over the years, we've collected enough data and seen enough patterns to have a fair share of our own understanding of how government works. And we've seen how the parties work, because at the end of the day, even in running a campaign, it's mostly who the parties present. So you can't necessarily just work with a candidate who's not being presented by a party. So there's that. There is the other part where when a government is formed, you then ask yourself, how can I add value? And that's the adaptation part. So we work with a criteria, and I'm going to merge your question to Danjuma's question. We have a criteria with which we choose the candidates that we work for. But even the criteria cannot be foolproof, because someone can, fall, within the criteria, but still express your part, because they are human beings and they're flexible and fluid and can change anytime. So that's the challenge. I'm a human being, and so have I had moments where I've thought to myself, this thing pained me, or should I continue doing this? Oh, of course I have. But you also have to think and say, what if it works the next time? Shall we not try because we failed once, twice, 3 times? You know how long it took to try and fail before this thing came on and became electricity? Do you know how long it took to create the mobile telephony? Steve Jobs said, let's move from Macintosh to, and he says, and these people say, oh, we're going to blow up our company. What if it doesn't work? He says, let's blow up our own company and create something new instead of letting the market forces blow us up. You've got to keep trying. Sometimes you'll work, sometimes you'll not work. But you know why you're doing what you're doing, your values. And so even when you adapt and you keep your values intact. And when you find that your values are not intact, you have 2 choices. Stay on and fight, or remove yourself from the situation. It is only a wise hunter that fights another day. My people will say, a hunter that is wise knows when to fight and when to retreat. Because you retreat doesn't mean you've lost. Because you lay low for a while doesn't mean you've lost. It just means that you went to rebuild your strength and you're coming back. And so there are many choices, but it's up to you to decide. And for us, at every point in time, we look at the situation and we choose which one we want to follow. Just to see if, so I've answered Dan's question. We have criteria, but it can never be foolproof. Even no matter how much forensic you do, it can never be foolproof. And then how do you create your model here? You answered to create your model here. Again, I said it earlier. We saw problems, we're fixated on problems. The problems inspire the solutions. Every problem you focus on, the more you think about it, the more the solutions will come to you. Solutions come from thinking. Solutions come from quiet place. Solutions come from you saying, I need to fix this problem. Everything we want to solve in this world is already inside us. In actual fact, what is not inside you, you will lead and attract the partnership. All my life, I've always had a partner. My first company I registered, in 2003, I had a partner. The second company in 2005, I had a partner. Anything I do, I work with partnerships. So even if you can't solve it, pick the problems you want to solve. You want to solve the problem of storytelling? The world is even better now. Create a podcast. You can do videos. There are people who do things by themselves. Traveling the world, telling stories. I opened a film company recently where we invest in films, and we also do our own films and tell our story. Our own first film production is called Eco Miami, and it's about a young man who moved to London. And after 8 years of not succeeding, he moves back to Nigeria to chase his dream as a show promoter, and he goes through what Nigeria will do to you that Moshood is afraid of. He went through the slaps and the turns of Nigeria, but eventually he succeeded. The reason why we did that film was simple. I wanted to show the world that sometimes you can go abroad and not succeed and come back home and find your future. It's not one way. You can jackpot and jackpot, and you're welcome. We will accept you. And so that's what the film is called, Eco Miami, Lagos, the city of dreams. So pick the problem. The internet and social media has made it so easy for you, and I'll link it to your question as well. There are many people, who want to partner with you already. Just put the word out there. And there are people in your sector already. As R&R Luxury, my friend Valerie in Ghana, I can put you in touch with You know, there's what's her name now? It's just I can't remember. It's there, but it's not coming out. Modamo. Is that? Yeah, I have all these people that I also know that I can put you in touch with. So listen, I want to come back. The market is big enough for everybody. You know, I want to empower women back home. I don't want to keep producing here. I want the women from my country to be the ones who are doing it for my continent. You know, and you can also put it on social media. I'm looking for partners. Social media is such a powerful tool, my friends. How did Dio set this up? He saw that I was abroad. He saw that I was, you know, the Said was planning this tours, and he sent a message to my team. And then eventually sent a message to me. That was it. That's how we're here. Social media. While I've been here, several people, somebody reached out in Maryland, they went to host an event. Someone in Michigan, we couldn't do all of it. You know, there's a company that reached out to Debo. They were going to send flight details, this one, that one, please, 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 please. I can't, I'm just one person. Because they saw that I was in America. And they wanted to, you know, everybody just wanted peace. Social media. Some can DM, some can email. So use social media. It's more powerful than we think. It's not enough to watch videos, to consume content. You've got to use this platform to also connect. And finally, every door you want to go through is manned by a person. Every door you're looking for, all the keys you're looking for is in the hand of someone. Do not joke with connecting and building your network. Be intentional. There is no level of success where you've gotten to that you cannot build. There's another level to unveil through the access of somebody else. Someone else will put you on their shoulder and lift you into another room. So you've got to be intentional. Even those who are celebrating you because of where you are now, you can't stay there. After a while, you become old news. You've got to do new things. When they invite you to the table, they need to constantly boast and say, oh yeah, he's on our table, you know. He's also on the president's table. He's also on the... They want to use you to boast. So you can't say, oh, I'm here, I'm home, and you stop. That's why they say no rest for the wicked, no rest for those who are, you know, dreamers. You've got to continue to break new doors, new frontiers. And you can also choose to be content. There's nothing wrong with that. You can also choose to live a life that is content, you know, but wherever you find yourself, make impact. Wherever you find yourself, open doors that others like you can walk through the door and they will find opportunities because of you. Wherever you find yourself, remember your countries, remember your continent, focus on it and solve problems that will give your countries and your continent the respect and regard that when next people see you anywhere in the world, they respect you. Because the respect they give of you is a reflection of what they think of where you're from. Thank you. Okay, let me just say a quick thank you to Dio, for all he's done to put this together. I was very impressed with how, he reached out and very quickly, he organized, all his team and the detail and all that he did. So please help give Dio a round of applause. And I see a couple of friends in New York, Shei, Vijay, Namo, Ralph, all of you coming out, everybody, thank you. I haven't met the man in green, but, I've heard him already, our Alaji, everyone, thank you all for coming. It's been great spending time with all of you. And please, download our Leatherback. Open your phones. Go to your apps. Go to your apps and scan away. Yeah. You're scanning. Yeah. Scan. Download our Leatherback and be part of limitless possibilities to send and transfer money around the world. Thank you to Adiola, and of course to our host. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. A bigger round of applause for Mr. Williams. Thank you. Yes. So we do have Suya for you guys, sponsored by the one and only Aboki Suya. Thank you so much. So that's what I was outside trying to prep for you guys. So Hope you enjoy. And thank you so much to our partners. Again, I'm Fatima Young Oprah, founder of Inside the Diaspora, the Africa Map. Logo right there, that's me. Thank you so much to everyone. Hope you enjoy.
Piano.